Hello and welcome to the third part of this time-lapse video tutorial. In this part we're quite simply going to finish off the image by applying some drop shadows. So to do this we just need to click back onto our layers. So just make sure you've got the top layer selected, right click and just choose Simplify Layer. And what that'll do is apply the layer mask to the image layer, and you can actually see if I just turn off the visibility of the other layers that we've now just got that single part of the image. So if I just turn the visibility back on, and all I need to do is right click on each of those layers and choose Simplify Layer. And as you do that, you'll see those layer masks applying themselves to the image layers, and we have our 6 components that build up the final time-lapsed image. We don't have to obviously do that for the last one because the other layers are covering over that last image layer. Now once we've done that, we want to apply a drop shadow to each of those layers. So go up to the effects palette and then choose the second icon along, which is layer styles. As default you'll probably find it's on bevels, so go over to the drop down menu, select drop shadows, and the drop shadow you want is just the soft edge, which is normally in the bottom right hand corner. So with the top layer selected, just double click and that'll apply that effect onto that layer. Now click on the next layer down and again just double click and do that for each of the layers so each one has its own drop shadow. Now once it's done that, you'll actually see it's putting a drop shadow across the top of the image as well. Don't worry about that at the moment. We're actually going to crop the image in a little bit, and that'll actually remove any of that excess drop shadow. At the moment we've got our drop shadow at its default, which is 75% opacity, and what we want to do is just adjust that slightly and take that down to about 30. So to do that, click onto the top layer, and over on the far right hand side of the image layer you'll see a little icon that says FX. Just double click that and that'll bring up the style settings. Third one down is the drop shadow opacity. Just take that down to 30% and click OK, and we can see that that's just reduced the opacity of the drop shadow on that top layer. And again you just want to repeat that for each of the images or each of the layers, and it just makes the drop shadow effect a little bit more subtle. Okay, once that's done, we can now really see the division between each of the image layers, and as a final tweak you might want to just apply an adjustment levels layer. So click onto the top layer, choose adjustment layers and levels, and then we can just tweak the levels a little bit just to bring out a bit more of the detail and just increase the contrast a little bit within the image. Just gives it a little bit more impact. So I just click the preview button on and off, and you can see how that sort of brightened the image up a little bit, made it a little bit more vibrant. So just click OK and we'll apply that. Now the last thing, or the last couple of things we need to do are flatten the image down, and then we're actually going to crop the image in just to lose some of that drop shadow at the top of the screen, and also just to bring it in a little bit so we can print it out on a piece of A4 paper. So if we go over to our layers palette, choose our layer options, and we just want to flatten image, and that'll flatten all of our images down into one background layer. And finally, if we go up to image and resize and canvas size, and we're just going to take the height down to 19 centimeters, and what that'll do is crop it in on the top and the bottom of the screen. Click OK, it'll warn us that we're going to actually crop into the image, and there we have it. We've now got an image which is ready to print out on A4 and shows the time lapse from late afternoon to early evening of the city of Bath. So that's how to create a time-lapsed image of a city.